to another great episode of Unpacked After the Vows. Listen, I'm so glad you're joining us this week. This episode is really special because we are answering all of your questions. That's right. You all have wrote in, you've texted in, you've done all those things. And so we are here. Look, I've got my folders and my paperwork right here for you. And we are going to sit down with my guest. He is going to be a perpetual guest with me on this show. And we are going to enjoy answering your questions.
Yes.
So this is at a point in our series where all of the sermons are done. We have finished 9 weeks and we've had guests on our show, and now we want to make sure that we go back and answer that we would.
Yeah.
And so here we are. Now, I hope you're ready, because I'm sure this is just going to be a roller coaster of emotions and feelings. These range. So I hope you're watching, send to your friends and share. And we want to know what's on your heart. And so thank you for sharing with us. And we are going to do our very best. The series has answered a lot of these questions already, hopefully. And you're going to hear that we're going to revert back to many of the series. We're going to say, hey, go back and watch this one. Go back and check it out. And I think you'll find a lot of answers there. We've done a lot of Q&As already, so these are mainly the ones remaining. Look forward to it. We're going to get to it. And so, Timmy, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay,
let's go. Topic. What's
First topic is infidelity and forgiveness.
Okay, let's go.
Starting off strong.
Oh, let's go.
Okay, this one is, I am a pastor's wife, had an affair several years ago. The marriage is in a broken state. The beautiful picture that Pastor Tim created about marriage sounds great, but does it apply to marriage after infidelity? Thank you for your question.
Yeah.
It's a really good question.
It's a really good question.
And yeah, it does apply to marriage after infidelity. I know that is hard, and really it takes healing, it takes work, it takes trust, most importantly, time.
Yes.
Right. And I don't want to say most importantly, we need God in there. Of course, we're saying that God is in this, but God is in healing. He's in time.
That's right.
He's in patience. He's in forgiveness. But that has to come when both parties are really putting in the work.
Yep.
Admitted. So to the pastor's wife, if you've done it, you just have to know that you have to put in a little bit more work to help your spouse build the trust.
A lot more work.
You've got to put in, yes, a lot more. You've got to be able to put up boundaries that makes him feel safe. He may ask you 1,010,000 questions. He may question you all the time. What has happened? It's just it's him healing. You have to build that trust up. And it takes time. It just takes a lot of time. But can it work? Yes. Yes, it can. But it takes time. It takes patience, grace, lots of forgiveness. And you can't really be mad at him for constantly asking you questions. You don't, there's a few things you don't get to do. You don't get to constantly checking, or if he feels paranoid. That's not his fault. Because of the action, it put him in that it could have put him in that state if that's how he's feeling. So that's where the patience comes in. And just time, it heals. But it seems long. But yes, it can be done.
Yeah. So I want to say a couple of things. Number one, there can be a very vibrant relationship after infidelity. I also want to say that it's very important for the person that was her soul work.
Yes.
To figure out what it is in them.
That's right, babe.
That made that possible.
That's right.
Right? Like your marriage is one thing.
Yeah.
Your own individual work is another.
That's right.
So
honey.
you can be doing a lot of good stuff in your marriage, all this kind of stuff. But if you don't do your own soul work,
that's right.
You'll do this again.
Yeah.
And so the reason why I think it's super important to point to that is so that the person that was unfaithful understands their responsibility to make sure they discover that led to it.
That's right.
Doesn't mean that the other spouse may have not had or something to do with it.
Yeah.
It just means that the marriage is really, really fruitful. Individuals do their work.
That's right, honey.
So,
great point. You've got to do your work. And because, just so that you know, the affair, the actual activity of the affair didn't start there.
Right, absolutely.
We've said it in some previous unpacks that it started from somewhere prior to that.
That's right.
So you really have to go back and ask yourself what is the genesis of that and how we even got to the affair.
Yep.
So correct, baby. Good job, honey.
Thank you, baby.
High five. All right.
Appreciate it.
So we're still in infidelity and unforgiveness. So the next question is, my spouse committed adultery and I am not sure of what to do next. Forgive, and I want to try to heal the marriage. How is trust restored after infidelity and betrayal? So a lot of these questions are going to be similar in these topics, but I want to make sure that I'm answering your question or that we're answering your question. And so thank you for your question. I love the fact that I don't love the fact that they committed adultery. I love the fact that this person still wants it to work after such a betrayal, after such a heartache, and yet it's still transparent. Some people are like, let's just leave right away. Yeah. But clearly there's something about them that they want to stay. Yeah. So you want to forgive and try to heal the marriage. I love that. Yeah. Yeah.
I think in this particular, what makes this question different is
that's right.
This one sounds fresh.
Yeah. How is trust restored?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so trust is restored over time.
Over time.
Trust isn't broken, it's shattered. Mm-hmm. Right? When you break something, it's usually in a couple of clean pieces.
That's right. You can glue it back together.
But when something is shattered, you have these little fragments and shards that that literally could turn something that was one piece into hundreds. That's just going to take exponentially more time.
That's right.
Now, the beautiful thing about something that is shattered and put back together is that it's a mosaic that's actually more beautiful than the piece that was before. Now, with that said, breaking up stuff just so they can build a mosaic, right?
Let's build something beautiful out of this.
Yeah, exactly. No. But if you find yourself in this situation, the encouragement is you can still have something beautiful on the other side. Yep. It's just going to take time.
And it may look different. So your relationship may not look the same. Right. And maybe it shouldn't look the same.
Right.
Right? It should look different because sometimes when God restores things, it might not look exactly like it was, and you don't want it to, right? So now it should be fixed in a way, or it could be healed and restored in this. The wounds that were maybe there, or whatever the missing pieces were, he's filling it in. So whatever things in your life that needed to be healed, that can be healed now. And so you do have this mosaic piece. Yep. It's the same glass. Right? It's the same people. Healing involved individually, like on a previous question about doing your own individual work, and then maritally doing that work together. So seek counseling. Yep. Counseling for that additional help. Seek marital help, and see if your spouse will be open to do their own personal work as well. You're going to hear us say that a lot, and it's really, really important to get that these habits aren't repeated.
Great.
All right. Same topic. What do you do if you're working on restoring your marriage after an affair, and then your husband tells you in the beginning he's really willing to do anything and everything to fight for your marriage and to prove things to you, but the minute you ask about things or you get into an argument, he's ready to run again and not willing to prove anything. He says he's a man and he's not going to live in a prison and doesn't need to prove anything to anybody because he knows he's not doing anything wrong.
Pride alert.
Come on.
Pride is high here.
It's very high in this question.
I can hear it.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
It's loud. So when you have some, because think about, let's break it down, right? This person is saying, I'm willing to do what it takes to make the marriage, be what it's supposed to be. The moment the other spouse is now saying, hey, are we working on this? Yep. Trying to hold the individual accountable, then they flare up. It's, you're not going to tell me what to do. Right. Blah, 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 blah. Well, this is a person that has pride. This pride is what got them in the situation they were in the first place.
That's right.
There's a difference between revelation of affair coming out because a person was vulnerable, like you never got caught, right? The person's just like, I'm broken on the inside. Yep. I know it's gonna hurt for you to hear this, but I need to have been unfaithful to you. And that level of vulnerability, even though it's hurtful, it's like, oh my goodness, this is devastating, but at least you told me. I didn't even know.
Right.
We need to work on it, right?
Right.
It's another thing when you get caught
Right.
cheating.
Right.
And you just...
That's right.
And you're trying to make stuff work because you got caught.
That's right.
Not because you're actually mad.
That's right.
Not because you're broken that you were unfaithful.
Yeah.
You just got caught.
You got caught.
This dude sounds like he got caught cheating. Okay?
Maybe.
And so I am kind of filling in a little bit. That's not there.
That's right.
But the dude sounds like he got caught, and now that he's being held accountable, he mad.
Right.
So it doesn't sound, whether that's the scenario or not, here's what I'm really trying to get at.
Yeah.
This person doesn't want to change.
Right.
This person really doesn't want to change.
Yeah.
Because if accountability is making them upset, then their pride is, I can do this on my own. I don't need any help.
That's
fair.
Yeah. You don't get to not allow the other person to ask you questions, challenge you, check you, or any of that. If you are the one who has committed the crime in the relationship, then there shouldn't be any boundaries. You do have to live in a prison until those prison walls come down.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't get to say, I'm not living in this prison. That's really unfair if you were the ones that bound the spouse in the first place.
And let's take the word prison off of it because
they said prison.
Yeah.
They said he says he's a man and he's not going to live in a prison.
Okay, but we still need to take that word away.
Well, they're probably saying that in our assumption of, if I've told you, and I'm not going to don't keep asking me.
But here's what I'm going to say to this dude.
Say it.
If you think accountability is prison, you have no discipline in your life.
Probably.
You have no self-control in your life.
That's right.
If boundaries...
That's very good. Right.
If accountability makes you feel like you're in a prison, you're an undisciplined man.
Yes.
Accountability doesn't bring...
Very
it
good.
shouldn't make you feel like you're in a prison.
Yep.
Accountability should make you feel like you have safety.
Exactly.
Boundaries make sure that you have safety.
That's right.
So I want to address the reason why that prison, he's defining accountability
as prison,
as restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
And those are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
The spouse is not trying to restrict him.
Right.
She's trying to hold him accountable.
For sure.
And if he doesn't want accountability, then he doesn't want safety. Mm-hmm. And if he doesn't, he's in danger, and you might need to back away from this dude.
Well, what do we do? What we do is we challenge the spouse and both of you to get counseling, get a mediator. Mm-hmm. Okay? He has to get counseling or seek help, or else you're going to live in a perpetual state of questions and mistrust. And if you do that, then you are
absolutely
in that marriage. So I strongly encourage you to seek good, godly guidance, good, godly counsel, and both of you go to counseling to get this resolved. So hopefully you guys are watching the Unpacks together.
Together.
Okay? All right. Next question in infidelity and forgiveness. Forgiveness is inevitable within marriage, but what does God say we should do when betrayal happens?
He says we should forgive.
It is forgiveness still. Yeah, that's the question. Forgiveness is inevitable within marriage, but what does God say we should do when betrayal happens? It's hard. And thank you for this question. And I know it seems like you're answering the question, want to forgive. But it is the thing that you are supposed to do because betrayal is so devastating. And so it's very hard to forgive something like that. But you can do it. You're clapping. He's clapping. Yep. He's got something to say.
So I think we have to really kind of differentiate between forgiving and forgetting.
For sure. They're two different.
Right?
They're two different.
Forgiving is an act of the will, empowered to be able to not count a person's wrong against them.
Or to let it control the rest of your actions. You cannot let it control and dictate you.
That's great.
For the rest.
That's right. Forgetting is something completely different.
For sure.
And so when you've been betrayed deeply, is a work of the Holy Spirit.
And it's a hard work.
It's a hard work.
Yeah.
But the forgetting...
No, forgiveness. Yeah.
Yeah, the forgiveness is the hard work.
Yeah. Forgiveness is the work of the Holy Spirit.
The forgiveness is the work of the Holy Spirit. The forgetting is never going to go away.
Yeah.
It can be minimal. So I think in this question, what I'm sensing is that this is going to be hard to forget.
Yeah.
And maybe perhaps one of the things that I'm trying to process out in this question is, does forgiving mean forgetting? Does it also mean I have to stay?
Yeah. I don't think forgiving means forgetting, but I do think forgiving it helps empower you and continue to control you and keep it at the forefront of your mind. So to forget something, I love questions like this about forgiveness and forgetting, because you're asking somebody to do a very hard thing, right? We all love the Lord and we all have the Holy Spirit, but as humans, forget something that has deeply bruised you. And it doesn't even say you have to forget. It just says to forgive.
Yeah.
And so, but if you can forgive, and some people find it hard to forgive and stay, some people can forgive and stay, and some people can't, because the forget won't go away.
And so this is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. We're just breaking it down. We're talking it out. We're talking it out.
So this is what I'm getting at.
Get it?
Can you forgive and leave? The answer is yes.
Of course you can. You can forgive and leave.
Because when we taught on
yes,
this,
everybody's capacity is different.
Everybody's capacity is different.
Yes.
And if you have been in a marriage where there has been infidelity, it's one of the two things that Scripture says you can walk away from this marriage.
Now, this question says betrayal.
Yeah, betrayal.
But it doesn't necessarily say infidelity.
Oh, that's true. But it's under infidelity. It's under
infidelity and forgiveness. If it is an adulterous affair, then yes, we know you can leave if you want to. But this question is, when betrayal happens, like, there's many things that a person can be betrayed by. So can you forgive betrayal? Yes. Can you forgive and walk away? Well, you didn't technically ask about walking away. So if you choose, why are you shaking your head?
No,
what's the shake in the head?
No, ain't no.
I see the head shake.
But the head shake is just is not from a place of disagreement. It's just from a place of,
I don't want to read more into the question.
Yeah.
I'm just reading the question.
Yep.
I don't know what the betrayal was. They just said what betrayal happens.
It's under infidelity.
But if it is under infidelity, yes, you can forgive and walk away.
Yep.
Because everybody's capacity is different.
Some people cannot bear to go through something like that
100%.
again. The thought of something like that again is too much to bear.
Yeah.
And so God makes it very, very plain. You don't have to put yourself in that situation
100%.
again if you do not want to.
100%.
You're not God, right? God can forgive.
That's right.
In ways that people cannot.
100%.
So, and he can forget in ways that people cannot.
That's right.
We can forgive like
That's
God because he empowers us to. Forgetting, that whole east is from the west, the sea of forgiveness, I don't know where that is. If I could find a place to go toss my stuff in the sea of forgiveness, I would. I haven't found it yet, so I can't.
Yeah. And some people can, and some people can't, and that's okay.
That's okay.
If you can or if you cannot.
Yep, you got to respect the decision.
Yes,
yep.
the decision is respected for sure, in whatever you can do.
Good.
Okay, next question, under infidelity and forgiveness.
How many?
This is the last one.
Okay.
My spouse committed adultery and now has a child with another woman.
Whoop, whoop.
Oh, Jesus. He is currently living with the child and his mother, but says he wants to make our marriage work.
I'm going to end this quick.
I'm not comfortable with it. I asked him to move out of there and be by himself for a few months because I don't believe there's any growth, and all he has is excuses and questions as to why he can't just move back in with me and the kids. Am I wrong for asking him to do that? Also, what should I do? I hope you can understand the question. We understand the question.
Yeah, we understand the question loud and clear. Leave him alone. Leave him alone. He already left you. He left you already.
So bad. This is such a tough question.
He left you and had sex with another woman and had a child with another woman and is living with that other woman.
That's true.
He is only telling you that he wants to work on the marriage because the thought of you moving on is something that he can't live with.
Well, there is nothing.
He's
else
moved
to
on.
say.
He can't handle the thought of you moving on.
Good.
And the moment you try to move on, he will say some of the most manipulative things that you have ever heard in your life to try to keep you hooked in to the potential of him coming back to you. He's not coming back to you. But the thought of you moving on is why he keeps on feeding this stuff to you, because he wants his cake and he can eat it, and he wants to have his cake and eat it too. He cannot have you like that. You are worth more
So good.
to God.
So good.
And another man that will love you exclusively than to wait in the wings for a man that has already made a decision about where he wants to lay his head.
So good.
So leave him alone. There's nothing to add to that.
There's nothing to add. I wasn't going to add anything to it.
All right.
Well, there it is.
Yeah. Next topic.
All right, Mr. Ross.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, next. Well, moving along. Thank you for your question, ma'am. All right, lack of intimacy and lust.
Oh, this is a good topic. Let's go.
Mr. Ross on a roll today. Oh, only one question.
That's all we have for
That's
lack
all
of
we got
intimacy.
for lack of intimacy
slash
and
lust.
lust.
All right, let's go.
I think there's more coming. It might be under different topics.
All right,
Okay.
no worries.
After submitting an area to God, how do you navigate lustful thoughts when physical intimacy with your spouse is not fulfilling? Thank you for your question.
Yeah, so what I would say is that if physical intimacy isn't fulfilling, that's because you all keep having sex, but you're not talking about the sex you're having.
It's good.
Y'all need to have a conversation about it. And it doesn't need to be while you're butt naked about to have sex.
Right.
Like in the afternoon, fully clothed, you need to have a meeting, right? Like, I need to meet with you.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Let's go have a sandwich.
Let's go have a sandwich.
And we're going to talk about our sex life. And become curious, right? You need to become as curious about your spouse as you want your spouse to become curious about you. And so I think it's worth the conversation to sit down and go, hey, tell me the things that you like that I do in the bedroom. I would like to tell you the things that I like that you do in the bedroom. Also, I want to tell you about some things that I would hope you'd be open to. And be adults, right? Have the conversation and be curious about each other. Be genuinely curious about each other's sexual needs.
Right.
I don't believe you're married to someone that doesn't want to fulfill your sexual desires, but it may be that you have uncommunicated expectations, and there could be a fear that if you even broach the subject, you're going to be rejected. There needs to be a courageous conversation around
Yes. And based on the question, after submitting an area to God, how do you navigate lustful? So, I think the other thing is, I don't want to read more into it, but this could also be a situation where maybe, I'm not sure, but if you've maybe been into porn or some other things, and then now you have this expectation of your spouse to fulfill those, there could be a lack of intimacy or desire from there because you have fulfilled yourself or filled yourself with a lot of things that are fantasy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not a reality. So if that's the case too, then again, goes back to Tim, is you need to have this conversation. You need to open up to know that either one of you as a spouse is not what you saw on a video screen.
That's exactly right. Your wife or your husband is not a porn star.
For sure.
They get paid to do what they do. And they don't even like it. Right? I've read enough articles about former stars in the porn industry who...
It's a check.
It's a check. And what has happened to their soul as a result is seemingly outside of the work of God seems to be irreparable.
For sure.
So if this is a projection of something from a screen that you want done in your bed, I would lay that down and again have a conversation that will allow you and your spouse to have an exclusive sexual relationship that hasn't been shared with you and anybody else.
Right.
So.
Good. Okay. Thank you for your question. Next one. This one is growing differently and apart. This is the next topic, growing differently and apart.
Okay.
Okay. Question. Almost 7 years in marriage. How do you navigate growing pains when each person is changing and growing in a way that's different than when you first met? Mm-hmm. Very good question.
Very good question. So Juliet and I have been married 22 years. We have grown, we have changed, we have rearranged.
True.
And the way that we continue to reconnect to each other after all of this time is that we check in with each other.
Yep.
And I think you have to check in with your spouse. You're 7 years in. You're not the same person that you were 7 years ago. Mm-hmm. You don't dress the same. You don't look the same.
Hopefully you don't act the same.
You don't act the same, right?
In a positive way. Sure.
And so as a result, you need updates from your spouse.
That's right.
Because if you're giving them now what they liked then they could harbor a little bit of frustration because you haven't kept up with them. And so for me, my suggestion is always a cheat sheet. Instead of trying to guess, just sit down with your spouse and ask, hey, what do you need from me the most now? What do you want from me the most now?
Yeah, and I think we can ask questions that are very pointed because a lot of times when people get married at first, they get married because they have a lot of the same things. They are going in the same direction. Mm-hmm. And so you can ask a very pointed question of, hey, honey, we started out this way. What started changing in you? Or what started to become different? Or, what happened to where it seems like we started forking, and going in two different directions? Where did that start from? It's just asking a very pointed question, having those conversations again and getting to the root of where did you notice there was a difference? Why do you feel like you're going apart? Or is it just a lack of understanding of one another? So yes, effective communication and asking questions that say, okay, what started happening? Let's retrace our steps to where I started to notice something. Yeah. And maybe I didn't notice you changing then. And here we are now. Yep. Now I see you're in a different place. Back then I didn't know what was going on. And sometimes it's hard to admit that, but if we can, let's take those steps back and see where you can end up. You want to add something to that, I see.
I do, baby. Growing apart in my time working with couples, growing apart is a direct result of growing up without announcements.
It's great.
Is that good?
Yes, really good.
So you grow apart because you grew up in some areas, your perspective changed in these areas, and you never made an announcement that this was happening.
Right.
And so all of a sudden you go, yeah, I'm just not connected to her like I was. Right. I'm just not connected to him like I was. Right. We've grown apart. Well, you've done it without an announcement.
That's right. That's right. And back to your check-ins.
Yeah. So you have to check in, and you have to let your spouse know when these growth spurts are happening.
That's right.
Because that's what keeps them connected. Yeah. This person cannot read your mind.
That's right. You need check-ins and you need announcements.
That's exactly right.
Announce that you're changing. Announce what you're thinking.
That's right.
And that is all helpful when you're constantly communicating with each other.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Growing apart happens because you stop talking to each other.
That's right.
So
good job.
Yeah.
Good job, Timmy.
Boom.
Everybody, I hope you've enjoyed this week's topic of Q&As. You guys have had amazing questions, and thank you for sending them in. We're not done yet. We're going to keep answering your questions, and so I thank you for submitting them. We're going to do our best to keep this going. Until next week, we love you. God bless you. Bye-bye.